Rezon has come top 10 in every single FNCS this year and is undoubtedly one of the best fighters in Fortnite history. Recently, he just won 2 of 3 games in his solo Cash Cup finals, so let's see why it's impossible to fight Rezon. 99% of people really suck at using the Flowberry Fizz in fights, but Rezon here has this down to a T. He begins this fight by trying to pressure straight into the box because the other player has just finished a fight and he's weak. But because he isn't able to, he sprints out, ramps, jumps, and attempts to cone the opponent, but he misses. Where most people mess up with the Fizz is that they try to turn in the air, but notice he sprints, turns, and then jumps and places a bunches of ramps to make sure he doesn't slide off the end. Similar when he lands, he doesn't jump again, he slides and then waits for his character to go still and then jumps vertically upwards to ensure his momentum doesn't fire backwards, and from here he can just catch himself on 2 ramps. And this speed and pressure is exactly what causes the opponent not to be able to pop a single mini. But what Rezon's looking for here isn't to go crazy and piece him, it's to look for an opportunity where he only has one build between him and the opponent. This is why you can see for the rest of the fight he's continually moving around angles and searching for a wall that he can attack. And by the time the opponent has flipped the ramp thinking he's going to be safe because there's 2 layers of builds there, Rezon has already rotated all the way around to the other wall and is already pressuring that. This repeated speed of pressure eventually just gets the opponent flustered and stuck into a wall, which allows Rezon to easily finish the fight. And it's not just this fight that he fizzes to start off. Almost every single fight in this match, he taps Fizz just to give himself that extra speed boost to allow himself to pressure the opponent way faster. Another benefit of using the Fizz in fights is that your peaks can be substantially better. Because you can just jump over a tile high whilst having the Fizz on, this means that if you're on the other side of a wall from an opponent, you can just jump over it and hit a jump shot like Rezon does here, which allows him to very quickly finish this fight off. After he finishes that fight, another player starts to W key him and actually gets straight into his box, but Rezon manages to hit a big pump and gets a ramp over his head. From here, his muscle memory is really important as he does a left to right tile edit, which completely blocks the opponent's point of view, meaning Rezon can get a really easy toe shot and finish off the fight. This muscle memory is really important to learn, as a lot of people tend to do one of these side edits so they either drag it away from you or towards you, but these often give the opponent a chance to edit out of the box once they've been done, whereas doing this left to right tile edit means you can immediately hit a good shot afterwards. But one of the most interesting things about Rezon is that he's actually just quite hard to kill. In this clip, he's ramping up and an opponent starts to spray him out, so he retaliates with a really good right hand pump shot over the ramp. After blocking any returning shots, he does a really nice edit down through the floor, catches himself on the cone, and then simply pickaxes through the wall that he knows is weak because it's just been edited. From there, he pulls out his pump and attempts to get an immediate shot off, but is blocked by the wall. He can then just spray straight in and places the floor to catch himself, but his movement here is critical. Notice how as he's spraying through, he walks to the right hand side of the box and just phases straight through the ramp. Had the opponent not switched places, he would have easily phased through and been able to finish off the fight here, but because he's just trying to spray through, the opponent now thinks he can get a shot off on him, so he stops holding his ramp and takes out his shotgun, which is the perfect time for Rezon to then try and replace the ramp with his own cone, which he does, and of course he's able to then finish off the fight. Now, just spraying through the ramp once and then replacing it the second time is cool muscle memory, but what's really important about this is what happens after the fight as the builds below him start to actually get replaced by a third party. Upon seeing that the floor has been replaced and edited, he immediately moves on top of the single floor tile that the other player has edited to prevent him from being dropped down. Then, because none of this is his own box, as the cone is getting sprayed, he's not holding cone, he's instead holding a ramp. And because he's German, he holds this first time, but then he immediately places an armored floor, which allows him to completely safely exit the box. If you're interested in improving at Fortnite, which I'm sure you are because you're here, you can click the links below to purchase the Solo Superstars, which is group coaching by myself, Destiny's Jesus, and a bunch of really smart other coaches. Included with that is an over 180 video solo masterclass, which we will be updating this weekend with this season's meta for solo cash cups. Thank you to myself for sponsoring this video. Now, one thing that Rezon does really well is that he never has any dead time. Notice here how he's not just sitting in his box and doing nothing when he has good mats, he's instead always scouting through his cone, which allows him to spot a player who's just been cracked nearby, which is a super easy refresh because all he needs to do is just spray a couple shots through the wall, get into the box, and finish him off quickly for some easy mats. Most average players have a ton of dead time in their game, so just always making sure that you're scouting allows you to open up opportunities like this. Another part of Rezon's muscle memory that I really like is the fact that he does not cone floor, he instead ramp floors. Now that can be more useful in instances like this where he's peeking over a ramp, and now the ability to edit the ramp and the floor gives him him a much wider angle to right-hand peek from the ramp that he's standing on. This means he doesn't have to jump down straight into the box, and instead he can just keep his distance whilst keeping a right-hand peek on the ramp. Unfortunately, he does hit the absolute minimum here, but even in this fight alone, he does this exact same edit to win the fight, but instead he does just 50-50 and jumps straight in. Regardless though, because of the edit he chose here, if the opponent was on this far side of the box, he still would have had his line of sight cut off, and Rezon still would have had a right-hand peek on the floor. But one of the things I would say is the most important factor in Rezon's fighting is his ability to continually watch the other player. Just watch this clip in this fight. This is a low elo fight that he's going up against. He gets the advantage by hitting a 90 tag here, but watch his crosshair through this entire thing, and notice how the tag of the other opponent never even leaves the screen. He's always focused on just watching the other player, and this allows him to react to whatever plays they make, allowing him to finish the fight quickly. But people who try to finish fights quickly often just die because they make a mistake, and here's a really great way that Rezon reads another opponent to avoid making such mistakes. Whilst flying through this ring, Rezon just sprays and goes straight into opponent's box, hitting him for a good pump shot and building a ramp over his head. Now, most people here would just immediately edit with their ramp and just try to go for the second shot to finish the fight quickly, but this could lead to the ramp getting replaced, and then Rezon's in a really bad spot, being completely boxed in the opponent's builds. So to counter this, all he does is just hold his ramp, and because he's doing this, he can see that the opponent edits down the floor and then resets it, which means it's one shot, so all he needs to do now is just pickaxe ones down and finish the fight quickly with a single pump shot. Small little things like this, where you just read what the opponent's doing before making any fast plays, can very often save you from a really bad situation. I don't have much to say about this kill, but it's just cool, and he clubs this kid, so I thought I did put this in the video. But one thing I've really been struggling with lately is wall-to-wall skill, and just what to actually do when you're trying to wall replace to ensure I get good angles and that I don't take damage back. And I think this clip's a really good example of how Rezon does this really effectively. Here he's already opened the fight with a ton of damage, so he knows he has the advantage. The other player boxes up, and as he wall replaces, he tries to slide a cone into the box whilst replacing the wall. Now, this is almost guaranteed going to get you the cone inside the box, but it's a little bit harder to actually grab the wall at the same time, even for him with German ping. Despite this, his muscle memory is to pull out his shotgun and still edit as if he grabbed the wall and then shoot. Now, if he does grab the wall, this means that he's going to edit open and shoot the opponent, and if he doesn't grab the wall, that means he can pump the wall and weaken it, which means his next wall replace is going to be faster. So it's a bit of a win-win when it comes to muscle memory. But from here, he does something really interesting. He grabs the wall with the second pickaxe swing after shooting and then holds it until the opponent pre-fires, and then he places a cone to stand on and then opens a big 50-50 top row edit because the opponent has already shot, so there's no risk of being shot back, and this gives him the best chance to hit a shot and win the fight. One thing that Rezon does really well in endgame to get a refresh is this small little 2-tile tarp. Now notice on top of it, he only places a cone on the end box that he is standing in himself, and that is because there's an opponent up above him diagonally. Because the zone is pushing forward, this means this player is almost guaranteed going to edit out of the brick wall right here, which means that Rezon can just edit this floor and place a ramp on top of it, and since the player panicked at backside, he walks straight into the trap and is a free elim. Going back to the first example where Rezon was always looking for a single wall between him and the opponent to fight on, this is something that he does in every fight, and I can't stress this enough how important this is. Just watch the fight you're looking at in the background, and how many times does he change angles between playing on one wall, moving to another, going for a different angle, piecing up from this area, from that side, and it's incredibly difficult to fight against someone who applies this level of pressure. Don't forget to check out the solo superstars linked down below, and if you want to see why it's impossible to fight one of Europe's most underrated players, Chris, you can click on this video right now.